Hey, let's have a look at a way that we can make this simple mini side project even cooler. And this is what I want you all to start thinking of as we move into not only this first project, but how you might approach some problem solving for other works that you might be doing, professional stuff or your own artistic work down the road. And I'm gonna visit this image of the mountains of the Bitterroot background. So what if we wanted to have that three-dimensional space be even more epic and awesome? Lots of things that we can do here. I'm gonna do just a couple of things. At that point, you should be triggered to imagine what other steps you might be able to take, what other ingredients you might be able to bring to this that would make the work far more engaging and impactful. So this is just a background image. It's super flat. I mean, it is flat. There is a perception of depth, but it's just a two-dimensional JPEG. First thing I would want to do is start breaking this up into as many layers as possible to help that parallax and spatial engagement to be more dramatic. And the first thing would be just to get rid of that sky. The work that I'm going to do in here is going to be really fast and rough, dirty. Normally I would spend a lot of time being as precise and careful as possible, and that should be all artists' goals here. But for the sake of not boring you to death, by helping you understand what can be done and how this can be taken to a new level, I'm going to sort of fly through it. So I'm going to use my lasso. I like to use the polygonal lasso because there's a short little quick trick you can do where you hold down the option key and it turns the polygon lasso into the normal lasso. Polygon lasso is really good at moving through more geometric shapes, straight edges, straight lines and stuff like that, but it also is good for things like rock edges and whatnot that we're going to see a little bit in here. There are some organic sort of curvaceous areas, and that's where you might want to use the normal lasso. I'm going to simply hit tilde just to, nope, it doesn't work on this one. Tab, there we go. And that just gets rid of all my palettes and things. So I'm just gonna use the polygon lasso, and like I said, I'm gonna be pretty crude. I'm gonna fly through this stuff like rather quickly. But it's important that I stay as close to the edge as possible, but without leaving any of the sky, because that'll end up sort of being like a halo, and we'll see it, and you can call me out on it. There are ways to clean that edge up, especially in After Effects. It's using a matte choker, and that's something that we can look at down the road here too. But I'm just kind of clicking, moving, clicking, moving, clicking, moving. If I get to a spot where I want to do something more organic, I'll hold down Option, and then I'll just sort of draw it, and it'll let me kind of create my own line without having the straight lines of the polygon lasso. So if you need to sort of depart from it temporarily, I'm just holding down the Option key right now, and as soon as I let go, which I'll do here in a second, I just want to finish that. It'll go back to the polygon, and then I can kind of click, 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 and then I'm just going to fly through the rest of this. And now the selection is the sky. So if I hit tab and bring my world back, I can see that this is the Bitterroot layer. I've got the right layer. I just want to get rid of the sky. I'm not even going to keep it. So I'm just going to hit delete. Boom. Because I'll bring in a different sky. No one will ever know. So now what I have is the mountains cut out, and I can throw something behind it to also create even more depth, movement, dramatic elements, whatever. I'm not going to rename the layer just yet because I'm going to keep kind of chopping it up a little bit. tiny bit. So I'm going to do another selection. This time I'm just going to use the standard lasso. There are so many ways to make selections in Photoshop. If you feel like you got something that works better, use that method. This is just something that I personally have just gotten really comfortable with, and it does make for pretty quick work. Generally, I don't always delete the pixels. I will make a mask so I can kind of go back and rework it. And then maybe I'll actually apply that mask so that the mask goes away and it actually is removed. But the nice thing about the layer mask is that they do give you that chance to keep adding to it, subtracting from it, and getting a more perfect selection. So now I'm just going to go through and select the tree line. So the trees, I'm just going to kind of do some jagged stuff. I'm not really going to worry about being too perfect here. This is when I hit the speed up button on my video recording software so that you don't have to watch me do this. All right, I'm just going jag. Trees suck. I'm just going to say that right now, but it's totally worth it. It's worth it. And there are lots of tricks. There are plenty of tricks. You can isolate different colors. Oh, fart. And that's what I hate about this process. I don't know what I did. I'm using a tablet, and sometimes the tablet just kind of, there it is. It gave up right there. All right, I'm just going to do this real quick, and then we'll just cut back to it. Okay, all right. I just isolated the trees. Now it's time for me to make that as a new layer. And this information is important to be on its own layer because I need it to be able to spread through that Z space in After Effects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, I'm going to paste. I have a new layer. It's only the trees. It's pretty, like I said, it's pretty bad. It's going to work for now. I need to make sure I label that trees. And depending on how much isolation and layering you go, you might need to say trees midground or trees foreground or trees background or all of the above. That way you know which ones are which. In this case, I'm just going to hit trees. And now the important step comes in to hide the information from the layer that I took the trees from so that you don't see trees on top of the same trees. I have to get rid of that. And there's a really great feature in Photoshop known as Content Aware Fill. Thank God for this, because we, for the longest time, just had to use the clone stamp tool, and you'd paint over all that stuff, which I'm going to do first just a little bit so you know how to do some handmade work. In this case, I'm going to select that layer, make sure it's selected. And I might zoom in and see how terribly pixelated this image is, but it's good just as a reference. And maybe first thing I want to do is just try to get rid of some of this large tree here. So what I have to do is get my clone stamp tool, which is S on the keyboard, but here it is, clone stamp tool. They even give you like little lessons on how to use them. And I'm going to sample some of these trees. So I hold on Option and I click on these trees and I say, yeah, you need to be over here. And so I'm just going to kind of keep painting in intervals. I keep picking up and laying down my brush. That way it continually samples that information. If I keep going, it'll just start to rewrite the trees. So you want to be really careful that you just kind of do little bits of work. And so I'm painting the texture behind the trees back in. And so there's a ridge line that kind of comes this way. So I would want to sample a little bit of that ridge line and keep it going here, and then get some of that tree texture back in. And yeah, I'm seeing some repetition in here. And the best part is to try to sample and do little bits of kind of patching that doesn't allow you to see repeated patterns too much, because we're really good at recognizing patterns. So you just kind of keep picking and pushing and all that stuff. Now this part's going to be a little more tricky. I'm going to grab some trees from up here and start painting in that part of that valley. I need some rock texture. So I can either maybe try to use some of this, maybe over here, but possibly even some of the information that is up on this ridge, you know, could be popped in here as well. And you're not really going to know it. The best part about doing texture fills like this is that when you bring the other layer that's going to be on top of it back into the equation of things, our eyes aren't going to see it. We're not going to notice it. So there's that ridge kind of coming down. Looks like I need to just kind of hide that a little bit. And now this ridge dies behind that ridge. It's pretty good. This part needs to be filled, and I could just possibly just resample some of that right there. And I'm just kind of making up what the mountain looks like. You kind of feel like Bob Ross in a way. Like, you know, pretty little trees, happy little trees, things that no one's going to ever know about are happening before our very own eyes. And you can kind of bring in whatever you want. I am now sampling and creating too much. I don't like that little spot. Nope. Just go away. Boom. So I just hid that part manually. If I turn the tree back on, you can't tell, right? But when that parallaxing experience moves because of the camera or the null object, whatever, you're going to start to reveal what's behind it. You know, you're going to see what's on the side of it or on top. So it's important that you learn how to patch this stuff in. So that's a hand patch. The other way to do it would say, I'm going to hold down Command and I'm going to click on the thumbnail of the trees. As you can see that it has selected the outline of the layer that I had already cut out. But I'm still on the layer of that background. I'm not interested, however, in the part that I just did, so I'm going to get rid of it because I did a pretty good job. So I'm going to say, don't think about that part. Let's just think about this stuff down here. I'm going to hit Tab again to get rid of those just so you can see it. Now I'm going to go to Edit, Content Aware Fill. Oof, and this I'm going to see what it does. So here's my little thumbnail of saying, okay, well, based on the information that we have here, we can fill it in with some of this stuff. You can spend some time going through these different attributes for it and try to refine this. But I'm just going to say okay for now. And what that does is it gives you a new layer. And the new layer is the filled in part. So the background is still there. The first thing I like to do is just say, let's merge these. And so it's Command E, or otherwise you go to the flyout menu and you say merge, merge down, Command E, boom. So now it's back to the original layer, and it did okay. I still now need to go back in and say, let's just sample some of these areas with the clone stamp tool, and let's make this kind of work. So please me. And you're kind of the boss of what reality is here. And that's the cool thing. Oh man, I zoomed in and I see that there's a lot to do. I'm just trying to hide this tree line, really. I want to disguise it. I don't want to make it visible. So and that's what I'm saying. You're sort of in charge of what reality is here. You just don't want to see any of those old edges because this layer is going to be in front of it. So the only important part is that you go down far enough to hide those edges. And then you can soften your brush edge and stuff like that. I highly recommend you do that. I'm not doing it now just for the sake of this exercise. But I'm painting, I'm constantly resampling, trying to make it feel like I'm not duplicating anything around here. And once again, we'll just fast forward to where this guy is covered up. All right, cool. I'm happy with that because when I turn that layer back on, I can tell that You know, nothing looks really too funky. And I mean, this background is ridiculous. I see a bunch of repeated pattern, but we're just not going to see it. We'll never see it. Now I have to do a few other things. And the first thing is to find a sky, which is really easy to do. You can search for blue sky with clouds, whatever, do Google searches. I actually happen to use, no, that's not what I want to do. What am I? There we go. You go away. I have pictures. And in pictures, I have art. And in art, I have textures somewhere. Where are you? Come on. I have textures. And inside textures, I have clouds. Oh, I have better clouds than that, though. I have better clouds than that. Why don't I see them? There's glass. Huh, interesting. Normally I have better clouds than that. That's a pretty small file. Maybe I moved them to a different folder, but why would I have done that? All right, well I'll just use these for now. Man, I want better clouds than that. Are they just up here? Oh, clouds! Bam! I have a different folder for clouds. Sweet. So you know, I'm gonna find some clouds that are gonna work for this, and maybe that's not it. Maybe I'll just go with this one for now. And so I'm going to bring that in to this file, and I'll definitely have to scale those up and put them behind everything. So there's new clouds. And then the cool thing about these clouds is that, you know, they'll be able to move a little bit, you know, and make it feel like there's some distance between those clouds and the mountains. The other thing I can do is I have clouds that are alpha, and I can bring those alpha clouds in, and I'll make them bigger. Bam. And I can put them like in front of the mountains, but behind the trees, and just have like, you know, another element of these clouds that are kind of just giving me more depth and more reality of things. The last thing I want is a layer of grass, because I want to work with that grass actually move, like laying down as a floor. We talked about a floor in one of those first videos, but now I want some floor that is grassy. So I did a quick search on Google for large field of grass. That's what I typed in. But what's important for us to know is that there are tools in Google search under the images. So I'm in images, I go to tools, I want to make sure I click size and go to large. That makes sure that all of the images that I'm looking at here are going to be big, because I'm dealing with a large canvas. So I'm going to grab, this one has a watermark on it. It's fine. I don't really care right now. This is just an exercise. But you can use stock photo websites. Like I'm a member of this one called Envato. And Envato, you can do stock video, stock photos. There's After Effects templates in here. There's music, sound effects, etc. So you could go find one of these field of grass pictures here that might be, you know, well, it's not going to be watermarked as long as you're a member and paying for it. But they'll also be just, you know, great quality. So you could search through and try to find that right field of grass here. But like I said, I'm just going to use the one from Google. And I will pull that into my Photoshop file. And did it do it? It didn't do it. Try that again. Come on, to Photoshop. To this document. Come on. And there we go. Layer of grass. Yeah, the watermarks suck, but Like I said, I'm not gonna worry about it right now. I want to make it bigger though, and something like that. And you know, actually, you know what I should do before I do that is just get rid of this garbage back here. Maybe I'll go that far. Let's delete that. Maybe I don't even need to scale it up. Just for now, I'm gonna leave it, but I'm gonna call it grass. Cool. Now this document is ready to go back into After Effects, and I'm gonna rename it. I'm gonna call it Bitterroot 3D Plus. Great. Cool. Now in After Effects, I am going to import that image, Bitterroot 3D Plus, and it's I want it as a composition, retain layer sizes. That's great. What I'll do is I'll just bring those layers into the composition that I already made. Actually, this is a good trick. If I want to replace that background of the Bitterroot Mountains with another layer that I brought in, you have to make sure that layer is selected, and then you drag and drop it while holding down the Option key, and it'll just replace it. So there's my background mountains. Now I need those trees. So I'll bring those trees in. They need to be 3D, and they need to go way back. So I know that the mountains were at like 6,000. I'll put these things at like maybe 3,000. Scale that up. Hello. Scale you up. You're not doing it. I'll just go this way. Scale it up. And position it somewhere around where they were. I can kind of see the ghost of that edge, and that's fine for now. But I'm going to make sure I parent that to my master null that I brought in earlier. And that master null, I will just lower a little bit. Boop. Then I have to bring my sky in, the clouds. Null is clouds alpha, so there we go. Bam. Those will also be a 3D element, and I go into my position, and they need to be further away than 6,000. I'll go double that distance to like 10 or 12. Hit my scale that up, and then I can arrange it however I want. Maybe I just want to see more of those billowy clouds and less of the gray ones. Okay, so I'm starting to rebuild this. That is cool, which means now if I were to move my master left or right or inwards or outwards, we can see that there is now even some movement between the trees and the mountains behind them. The clouds really aren't moving much because I think I put them just too far away. So those clouds, I go back to position. I'll just bring them a bit closer. And now when I move my null, whoops, in or out, man, it really is not. Oh, because I have not put them to the null. That's why. Bam. You know, I want you to go to master. There we go. So I was better off when they were really far away. I just needed to make sure I set it as a child to the master as a parent. Sorry, I'm getting really excited, moving way too fast. There we go. Now we can see that different deal is going on. So the last thing that I want to try to settle here would be the grass. So if I bring the grass in, and I'm going to put it in front of the Bitterroot layer, make sure that it is a 3D element. I'm going to want to change its anchor point to be at the top. So I'll hit A for anchor point, and I'm going to move its vertical value closer to 0. I mean, like 0 would work. Just type that in. And then I'm going to rotate this on the x-axis toward me. So that's a negative value, and I'm going to set it at a negative, I don't know, close to 90. It doesn't have to be 90. But I'm going to get close to it. I'll do like 85. Negative 85. Make sure it's negative. Okay. Then I can move it down somewhere just below that fence, and then I could scale it so it's a little bit wider. Kind of looks a little stretched, doesn't it? But then color correction would need to happen. It's just way too bright. So I'd go into color correction, probably start with hue and saturation first, and just get rid of some of that lightness. Pull out some of that saturation a little bit. Just trying to get it to marry with the other imagery here. But the neat thing with doing something like this is that I need to make sure that that is also set as a child to master. So now as I move like through that area, it acts like a floor. It is drifting a little bit, so I'd have to play with its orientation and kind of get it to lock into the tree layer. That would mean that the grass position would have to be sent further back into space. So somewhere where it would start to intersect with the trees. There you can see it kind of going through the trees. I don't want to intersect too much, but I want to be really close to that. So now I'll just move it back down so that it's somewhere right around where I wanted it, below those fence posts. And then I need to do some scale work again. So I would bring it closer to me, make it wider so that it's not something that I can see those edges of. And now when I do my fly through, I'm seeing the edges of the other things, so I have to adjust that. But it is no longer floating with that background. And the camera, I mean, I could even move the camera down closer to it, depending on how much scale I give it. Nope, that's not what I want. I want this. There we go. So now when I fly in towards this by moving the null closer to me, and like my camera, I feel like I'm kind of moving along that ground line. So just a couple of things that are really fantastic as far as how to make this world even more engaging. I'm thinking about breaking elements up spatially. I'm thinking about edges, trying to make them believable. I'm thinking about filler backgrounds and filler elements. In this case, it's the clouds and the grass. Oh, I didn't even bring in the other clouds. If I brought in the clouds alpha and made them 3D, also parented them to master, but actually put them spatially where they belong, which would be behind the trees and in front of the mountains. I can then scale those up again if I can grab that handle. Scale that up, and maybe it's like maybe they're clouds that are over here and they're behind those trees, something like that. Now you can actually see how junky that line is, so I'd want to fix that. But now with this null, it's just one more element. I can even animate those clouds so they're kind of drifting, through the valley, but they're gonna behave as just another element that's in there. Oh, it's bird butt. So isn't that cool? It's pretty cool. If I look at this from the top view, you can see how everything is staged out, and it's lovely. All right, thank you for holding through that little sidetrack, and hopefully that inspires you as to how you can start thinking about imagery in three-dimensional space.